So, and then this is a true, in a non-Orwellian world, this subpoena would read as an impolite way to invite you to help convict the criminals you've exposed, not so much in New Hampshire. And let me say this too, that, you know, on the week that a lot of people are talking about press freedom and the rights of journalists, and who is a journalist in the United States? Who is a journalist? What is journalism? Well, journalism is anyone. Journalism is an activity, not a priesthood class of protected individuals. It is an activity done to expose things that are newsworthy in the public interest. And in fact, a lot of the people in the corporate media cannot do journalism because they have a symbiotic relationship with those in power, and they have a reciprocity of interest with those in power. So it requires independent people like you. It requires the independent folks who don't have the conflicts of interest that the corporate media has to do the actual behavior of journalism, which is an activity, not a protected identity class of groups. So this is very critical. In the week that Assange get arrested, and they did not indict him under any form of espionage act because he is a publisher of information. Now, if he hacked into the computer, that's a criminal, and that's not good, if he did that. But this is critical because what you have here in your state, and I'm sure that powers that be are going to watch this on the internet, is you have the inequality, the unequal application of the law. You would never do this to the New York Times. You would never do this, and in fact, you were stopped from doing it, to the Concord Monitor. You would never do this to NBC News. You would never do it. You couldn't get away with doing it. But you do it to me. You do it, and why? What is the purpose of the subpoena? What is the end goal? Is it to intimidate me? Well, that's not right. Is it to stop me? Well, you're not going to stop me. Is it to put me in jail? Is it to reveal the identities of my people, my sources? Is that what you're? I'm not going to give you the identity of my sources. So tell me, Mr. Tracy and Mr. Sullivan, what is the purpose of the subpoena exactly? Because you're not going to intimidate me. And I don't think you're going to intimidate the people in this room either. So the question, and Diana said, what's the call to action? The call to action is, what is the purpose of the subpoena? Is it to grandstand? Is it because they're embarrassed that I've exposed things that they say don't happen? Are they embarrassed because we've exposed that voter fraud is indeed possible? Well, that's not a reason to subpoena someone. So I think what they've done is they've made a grievous error. They've made a mistake that's liable to blow up in their faces. And everything's on the line. They're going to try to put me in jail because I've embarrassed them. That's what's happening in our country. And my question is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to let it happen? You don't have to do the reporting. You just have to stand behind the people who do the reporting. Because if you don't, who will? The media's not going to. The media's going to say, off with his head. We don't like him because he's threatening our paradigm. So the only people who are going to actually stand up for the people that are being attacked, maligned, defamed, potentially incarcerated for no good reason are the people like you, the people in this room. Now, I will say, you might say, well, what's this is an unsolved mystery. Why the heck does the subpoena say Hillsborough County? Well, I don't know, but I can speculate that in 2016 we did a video, including, I believe, in Hillsborough County, on Australian people in your state, Australians, from Australia, coming to help the Bernie Sanders campaign. And these Australians admitted to us that they were sent over by the Australian Labor Party to help Bernie Sanders, which creates all types of federal issues. You're not allowed to accept foreign labor in an election. Remember how they said the Russians were meddling in the election? Well, the Australians were meddling in the New Hampshire elections, according to this videotape.
There it is.
48.
That's the Trump sign.
Hey, all right, let's do it. Are we going to get the big one or the little one?
You can choose.
And this videotape we took in 2016, it shows the Australians ripping up Trump signs out of people's yards, which is also a misdemeanor. I don't know if you know that. That's a crime. You can't do that. So we've got 1 crime, 2 crime, 3 crime, all on video. The Australians were caught dead to rights.
How do you feel?
Fantastic. You don't.
Yeah, it's like an exchange program. So it's so the equivalent of the Democrats in Australia is called the Labor Party.
Yeah.
And they've sent us over.
The Labor Party sent Australians over to New Hampshire. Now, this made the front page of every paper in Australia. It was an international story at the time. And by the way, yes, your Attorney General at the time sent me a 3rd letter asking me to cooperate. And this is pretty extraordinary. In agreement with the FEC, the Sanders campaign actually was fined by the FEC for those videos. So these videos were not only real, people say our videos are edited, these videos were real. It actually led to a complaint filed with the Federal Election Commission by William O'Brien. So, just so you know, these videos led to the Bernie Sanders campaign actually being fined by the Federal Election Commission. This was more of a meddling in an election than all of the Trump-Russia stuff, because it actually led to an actual conviction of sorts. It led to a fine.
I've asked the U.S. Attorney to investigate it. I've asked the Department of Justice to investigate it. I've sent follow-up letters. There's been no response.
No response.
And in order to find the amount they did, they had to find, the FTC had to find the actual. That's an element that was.
That's right. So we have an unequal application of the law. That's Banana Republic stuff. That's Soviet Union tactics. I don't care whether you're left or right, whose ox you are goring. You cannot have an unequal application of the law in the live free or die state. If you're going to prosecute me, you got to prosecute the people who actually did the deeds. If you're going to prosecute journalists because you don't like what they're exposing, I just ask you to confess this. Please be honest about your motivations. Ms. Edwards and Mr. Dick Tracy, if you don't like me because of what I'm exposing, say that. Be transparent about it. Just be honest. Because I don't know any other reason why you would prosecute or subpoena or intimidate reporters for reporting facts that lead to these sorts of consequences. Right. Well, I mean, your taxpayer dollars go to pay all these government people to do this job, and a guy from New Jersey has to come up and do it for them. Maybe that's why they're embarrassed and have egg on their faces. But the bottom line is, absolutely, I don't understand. But this is a rare thing in politics where they actually did have to pay a fine. So, and there's your Granite Rock there. We're covering the story this week. So here's how you can help investigate Robert Bell for double voting in New Hampshire. The man did commit voter fraud. He did confess to voting twice. And I guess maybe ask questions about what are we going to do about Mr. Robert Bell? Is he facing any subpoenas? Is he going to be investigated for what he did? We believe, based upon sort of his behavior and his manner, that he knew what he was doing. He admitted to doing what he was doing. So here is the Twitter for the New Hampshire DOJ, the cell phone for the Department of Justice, and the email address as well. I would encourage each and every person in this room to make a call and ask Mr. Dick Tracy and Ann Edwards what's going on, and what, because we don't know what's going on. Our attorney has not heard anything from them yet. So pretty scary stuff, but the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice, and we are not going to stop. Veritas has more videos coming in New Hampshire this year, and we are going to expose the waste, fraud, and abuse, and I think that while they can stop one man, they can't stop an army of people. So we are creating an army of people, and they're not going to be able to stop Project Veritas. So thank you very much. And I think we're going to do a question or two. Any question?
Croc TV.